Hi, this is Rob Gordon. This is my personal vlog for March 8th, a little bit after 2 in the afternoon. I am, of course, continuing to work on the fraud and all the outrageous things that happened with Family Healthcare Centers of San Diego. Today specifically, I got up around 10. It took me much longer, or got going around 10. It took me much longer than I thought, but I wrote a letter to Anthony White, who is their director of government relations. It will not be the first time I've written him. That is the only way to communicate with family healthcare centers. The only email on their website. The only way to complain, do anything. That one single email. So I've written him 3 times. The first time was a very polite letter explaining the situation that was going on with Derica Aragon at that time, demanding urine tests as a precondition for continuing my care. And that was even before Joseph Pulveda, the compulsive liar, came on and with his urine-centric approach to healthcare, that kind of thing. We'll be going into that in some detail. But twice before now, a second letter I wrote him, I wanted to take advantage of the Freedom of Information Act. It's a federal act, FOA, it's sometimes called, or the California Public Records Act. They're both very important, especially for organizations like family healthcare centers. They give an ordinary citizen like me, or like I was before I lost my American rights. We'll be going into that a lot too. Um, Access to the government and to ask questions and to get documents. And most, believe it or not, most government agencies or groups that take a massive amount of public money are really good about complying with this law. If you ask your questions reasonably and you structure them correctly, you can find some really good information, and most organizations want to. They know, unlike family healthcare centers, highly opaque organization, very secretive and dark. Other organizations know it's important to release this kind of information. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing. I wrote him a very strong letter because in addition to them lying to get the restraining order, I'm going to be telling this whole story on me. Joseph Pulveda, the guy who claims to be their lead psychiatrist there, he was not my psychiatrist. He pretended he was. He lied to pretend he was. I only met with him like 8 minutes. And he caused more damage to my life than you can even imagine. These people are immensely powerful. People believe them when they lie. But he told some real whopper lies recently that I think I can prove. But this is just some basic information I wanted. I'm not going to read the whole thing. But it's information I needed both for my defense and to help other people abusive patterns of this organization, other people who might be abused. So Dr. Sepulveda said, I am paranoid and delusional for believing my mental health care providers are conspiring against me. This was one of the new diagnoses I got instantly. And I've already proved that he's a liar. That was the only question I was allowed to ask in my restraining order hearing, where they lied and said I made violent threats. Um, the only question I was allowed to ask was who had talked about me before. There were no less than 5 people he had discussed me with. By the way, anybody using family health care centers of San Diego, mental health care, you should know you have zero confidentiality. Zero. They blab all over the place. I've got references all over the internet proving that. But they consider you a loser. They consider you pathetic. All they're doing there is cashing in on you and using the government. It's really, at one time, it was probably a good organization. But there's a thing people of my generation know about called a slippery slope, where something that starts with good intent can end up evil. Vietnam War is a really good example of that. They just kept doing the wrong things. In the case of Family Healthcare Centers of San Diego, what probably happened is gradually over time, the good people started leaving and the bad people stayed. And I've noticed the higher you go in management there, the worse it gets. There's certainly some good people there. But boy, this is Paul, the guy, is really a piece of work. Anyway, so I've already proven him wrong about that. I'm paranoid and delusional, new diagnosis, but they really did conspire against me. So what can I say? You could use a different word than conspire, I guess, talk about or collaborate, but Smells funny. Okay, number two. Both Derek Aragon and Joseph Polveda said I would be subjected to a whole battery of psychological tests. This one's so weird. This one where I wasn't even a human on this one. And they both use that exact same verbiage. So that's why I know these two were talking. And he acknowledged they were talking about it in really vague, mealy mouth, way, as is this man's character. Um, but they didn't, neither one of them know. Derica Aragon, when she first said it, she was demanding urine. She said, you're going to have to undergo a whole battery of psychological tests. What test? She couldn't answer me. So pretty shaky, pretty shaky. And then Sepulveda a week later said the exact same thing, and he should have been ready. As you're going to have to undergo a whole battery, exact same words, whole battery of psychological tests. What test? And this time I really pushed him. And he was pissed that I pushed him. I said, what test? You got to say what test. Who is the publisher? And finally, after pressing him a bunch, the best he could come up was, they will be age appropriate. So it was a little dig. He was going after me because I'm old and I'm probably in cognitive decline. He probably thinks I'm too stupid to understand what the tests are. But the way he said it was really experimental. Like, oh, and he said, I'll decide later. Like he had ultimate power over it. Very creepy guy, Joseph Holmes. In addition to a liar, very, very creepy. I understand that with Myra Ruby, that's a trouble that actually, oh, he ordered a urine test. After I had denied access to my medical records, he altered those records. I'll be going into that in some detail too. And he ordered another urine test. So I want those records. I want to know the dates and time on that, because that proves also records tampering. He's a real con man. The script that Aragon used for taking the question script they used against me, it was really crappy, dumb questions. And this was when Derek Aragon interrogated me, and it ended up being only interested in cannabis. That was the sole purpose. And I told that story elsewhere, but she said, have you ever used cannabis at any time in the past year, even once, in any amount, in any way, shape, or form? We're going to be going into that whole story. I had in a small amount, but I never use it under the medications I'm on because it just doesn't work, and I don't even want it. But that's a whole nother story. I'm going to be going really deep into the witch hunts they're having there, some of the really potential for patient abuse. We'll be talking. I'm just going over these questions now. So I want that script because the very last question before Derek Aragon hung up on me was about cannabis, and that script couldn't be that way. But again, they're hiding it. What kind of script is the last question? Cannabis doesn't make any sense. It might have been written by these guys. It was so crappy, but I'll find it. And if they're using it on other patients, that's really sad. Number 5, I was abruptly ordered to undergo random drug testing. Yeah, this is where Derek Aragon lied about this one. I was ordered to immediately, once I said I used minuscule amounts of cannabis, I was immediately classified as a drug user. And I was ordered to go random drug testing. I don't know if this means they're going to come over to my house or what the hell they're talking about. These are real dirty players. Real dirty. Because they'll lie about one thing and do a different lie later. So I'm asking for all documents about this, about how their random drug testing goes, if it's selective, if they're picking on me, because all these questions were political. And I want to know anything around the first of the year where their policy changed, because I believe Sepulveda is a urine lover, man. He just, you can't find much written about him on the internet. He's got a very small footprint. But the one thing you can find is he passionately loves urine testing. He's, well, I'll go on to the questions because I think I'm going to come in. Random drug testing. Okay, the next one is, Sepulveda claimed I had been flagged by a controlled substance agency. And it was probably just an attempt to snag me. I had a rather unusual medication regimen. I had the generic for Adderall, and a few days a week I took the generic for Ritalin, and that was for a couple of medical reasons I won't go into here. Mostly digestive, had to do with my gut. Both these things, affect the gut as well. But it worked for me. It worked perfect. But he criminalized that. Like everything was criminalized. You know, we're subjects. We're not real people. The family healthcare centers. So I want all letters and documents that discuss um, his new drug regime that he's put in there. And I also want to know how much they make off it. If they're profiting off it, I'm positive they are. Um, discuss. Oh, I wanted to discuss staff shortages because they also have this question number 7. When Dr. Urbe left, um, he had 1,000 patients. He left, or was more likely pushed out in some dirty politics that Sepulveda and a few others arranged. Um, and I want to know who else was affected. The head of Beach Area Family, whatever it's called, Beach Area Community Clinic, whatever it's called in my neighborhood. The head is Dixie Clapelon. I'll have to learn how to pronounce her last name. She obviously participated in a cover-up, as did her boss. But we'll be going into that in detail. 1,000 people. He had 1,000 patients left with probably only like a week's notice. All those people, a lot of those people had medications. I did. Forced into medically unsupervised withdrawal. They didn't care. They don't care if you're sick. All they care about is money. But I want the documents related to that. They probably didn't make any, but they had that's a cover up. The judge didn't care about that either. He just didn't. All documents, letters, and 20 that discuss. Oh, I want to know about ADHD. Um, because Sepulveda wanted to undiagnose me from ADHD. I had been warned by other people that there are doctors like that. They give out antidepressants like candy at Family Healthcare Center. In fact, everybody gets a diagnosis of depression, no matter what you have. So I'll be talking about that as well. Number 10. Oh, okay. Number 9. This is what I was going to talk about before. Contingency management therapy is Joe Sepulveda's thing, and it really freaked the lawyers out when I asked about this at that fake hearing I had. So what it is, it's really disgusting. But it's one of the few things you can find out about Joe Sepulveda. Absolutely likes it. They give prizes like he loves urine testing people. Uh, Obviously, a guy like him gives them well, other than that. But he loves urine tests. He's based called Dr. Urine. But this one, contingency management therapy, is especially gross. He gives prizes out like donuts for clean urine samples. And he's running around town trying to get money for this. That's probably why he was hired. Um, he claims he's a drug abuse specialist. I think it would be nuts for anybody that has a drug problem to use him. They should not let anybody see this man unless you can walk away. I think at all. I think you have to see an attorney and other kinds of advisors before you walk into an office with him to be warned, because he's a real con man. But this contingency management, because he was trying to bring this garbage to our town, apparently actually got some money from it. It's considered to be so demeaning that no government agency, federal, state, or local, will even consider funding it. It's gross. It's just gross. It's nothing. It's just gross. It's a control thing that I just don't believe would work for drug people. For people that are addicted to drugs. That's the wrong approach. And thankfully, the government seems to agree. So all documents that have fund-reaching activities from him, they didn't give me this. Contingency management, number 11. All documents that discuss the impact of the sudden departure from Dr. Urbe, my good psychiatrist, correctly diagnosed and successfully treated me for ADHD. Obviously, he didn't belong at Family as a high quality professional. He did not belong there. He used to know how to cheat their system. I think their system, depending on how much they could cash in on me at the time, I would only get 15 minutes every couple months or something like that. Urban knew how to hack that system. They wouldn't let him do anything else, but he would get two sessions and put them together. And at the end, he fixed me. I mean, obviously, I still got a lot of issues, especially now. But that is as good as you get in psychiatry, I think. I mean, I was a real success story for Family Healthcare Centers of San Diego, or I should have been. Now I am a massive failure story, and I'm telling that story, but I'm not taking this failure. Um, people like people at family healthcare centers, they are agents of failure transfer. And you can look at this through a couple lenses. One, it started with me telling the truth about cannabis, for one, and other people lying about the reasons for Sepulveda leaving, and just a lot of lies. They don't, they have a culture of dishonesty at family healthcare centers. So that's another thing we want to learn about. Let's see, what number was that? Um, Lost my place here, and I need my glasses. Oh, so staff shortage is about that. I want to know more about ADHD because if they have any special diagnosis, or I'm putting together a community group. It's going really well. I'll talk about that later. But I think this group gets a lot of abuse from bullies like Aragon, Derica Aragon, and Joseph Polveda. I think they just like to pick on people that have ADHD. So we need a better voice um, to prevent abuses like that. So I just want to see if they have any policies of that. Discuss the impact of the sudden departure. Um, okay, so Polveda claims he's a leader of the mental health, but he mentions it like there's a triumvirate there. Claudio Cabrillos, I'll be talking a lot more about him. I saw him years ago briefly, um, and really briefly, like 20 minutes. And he diagnosed me as being depressed, gave me some medications. I didn't want them. 6 months later, I took one at the advice of another therapist there. Took more than one. Took 7 days. Got very ill. Real bad misdiagnosis. He comes into play later. This is why, because I mentioned my misdiagnosis, and then he and Sepulveda got together and conspired against me. I'll use this word, cooperated. I don't know what. Yeah, they conspired. They were, and we proved it. So I've got a mental condition. It's true. I don't know what that means. Okay. So I want just their org chart, because what I think's happened there, the management is so crappy. And I met the manager of the mental health department. She is, wow. She is a horrible manager, which that's got to be one reason for the why the place is so extremely poorly managed. But I want their org chart so I can know how they think they work. And I need all intake forms so I know how to. I don't know. You never know what you don't know. And from what I've seen, their intake forms are horrible. Ask the wrong questions, poorly structured. They don't care because they're so internal. They probably fooled some government agency into thinking they're keeping good track of things. They're not. But I want to know their intake forms so I know how to ask them questions. And then I want to know there's, for want of a better word, and this is just for my clinic and Dixie Gallipan, not pronounce her last name again, who runs that clinic. I'll be talking about her separate. She thinks of herself as Mother Teresa, but she gets nothing done. She's one level up in management. In a meeting we had, she became quiet as a church mouse. She's caused a lot more damage and done a lot more, even though she's done it, by acting sweet the whole time. And I imagine she's hurt a lot of other people. So I have one question for her, just for her clinic. Who's tried to commit suicide that you ignored there? Somebody checks the yes, I thought of killing myself this week. Somebody checks that box. Is somebody that picked up the phone? Are these people even humans? A long time ago, I was watching, way long ago when I was a kid, watching a show with my sisters, and it stuck me with me for some reason. And I don't even remember the show, but it was about the a captain in the ocean or something, and somebody could have made answered an SOS, save our souls message, to save some lives, but they didn't do it. And I just don't remember the plot at all. But I do remember that, and this is kind of Catholic too, because I believe this is Catholic doctrine. If you can save someone's life and you don't do it, then you did a murder. Now, I don't think current law sees it that way. I think you can actually ignore an SOS and just walk away. That's kind of horrible. But morally, I want to know if this is just like cute numbers to them that have no meaning, or if they have any feel for the real damage they're doing to our society. And finally, my last question, number 15. Um, One way they cheated me out of my basic American rights and this joke of a trial, they knew how to manipulate. Um, they use the what's called the workplace restraining order, which is supposed to be for an employee, to attack me because I've criticized them. I never made any violent threats ever. I'm 67 years old. I know not to do that. But they took vague fragments and they made a story that, although there was no specific mental threat, if you took all these things together and, I don't know, you smoke a doobie or something, then you'll see the threat. There was no threat. These people are liars, especially Joseph Pulveda. I'm getting more comfortable saying it because now I have enough examples. He's a chronic and compulsive liar. He will lie in private, in the privacy of a, what he called a therapy session. That's fraud. That was, it's another story. I'll go into that later. I said, this is just a business meeting. He used that to lie and claim he's my psychiatrist. If I was forced into a room with this guy, I don't even know what they're thinking. This new concept they have of forced psychiatry is extremely dangerous, and I think everybody should be warned about it. This means somebody can just call you up, and from there, and if you're getting mental health, somebody just call you up, claim they're your psychiatrist, and if they don't like what you said, who knows what the hell they do. But they consider you lower beings. So that's all I want. I want to know how much they spent in government, just how much they spent. They had 2 full-time attorneys pouring through everything I've written and reconstructing, real creative writing act, except not very good writing, reconstructing this dialogue that I, at 67 years old, a lifetime with 0 police record, 0 violence, and almost no involvement in courts at all. I can't even, certainly not at the restraining order level. So, I instantly became a violent psychopath, no longer deserving of my American rights because I saw this guy for like 2 minutes. That's insane. I hope they fire him. I'm sorry. He really belongs in jail. I'll be frank. Joseph Pulveda, I mean, lying alone isn't enough to get you in jail, but he also did things like criminal records tampering. He went in and changed my records, threw Derek Aragon, by the way, under the bus on that. Blamed her in the trial. But we people should look at their real performance. This place has been hurting people for a really long time. I talked longer than I want to. I'm gonna stop this video now, and you can just take it from there.